Imagine one government policy in a foreign land, designed not for you, not for your country, not even with you in mind, ends up rewriting the very DNA of your middle class. That's exactly what happened in 1990, when the United States created the H-1B visa, and suddenly, India was never the same again. From the coaching class boom in Kota to the rise of luxury old-age homes, from the real estate explosion in IT hubs to the matrimonial market hunting for H-1B grooms, we're tracing how one American visa quietly transformed the Indian middle class, socially, culturally, economically, and even emotionally.
The beginning, 1990 and the IT wave.
When the U.S. Congress passed the Immigration Act of 1990, tucked inside it was a little-known work visa called H-1B, meant to bring in specialty occupation workers like engineers, programmers, and architects. Indians had already been migrating to the U.S. since the 1960s as doctors, academics, and scientists, but this new visa turned that steady trickle into a flood. What America saw as a way to fill skill shortages became India's ticket to the world. And it was India's middle class that grabbed that ticket. Because in India, it's the middle class, not the rich or the poor, that places its entire faith in education as the way up the social ladder. The wealthy already have privilege, and the poor often lack access. But the middle class studies, saves, and dreams its way to mobility. Right at that moment, history gave those dreams a push. The global IT revolution was exploding, and Indian engineers, products of IITs, and hundreds of state engineering colleges were hungry for opportunity. Indian IT companies like Infosys, TCS, and Wipro became launchpads for American dreams. They supplied the West with highly skilled but comparatively low-cost software engineers. From fixing Y2K bugs to running enterprise software projects and providing on-site client support for Fortune 500 companies, these firms quietly powered the global tech engine.
The floodgates open.
From Delhi to Hyderabad, Pune to Coimbatore, there was hardly a middle-class family without someone in the U.S. cousins, uncles, neighbors. Suddenly, every Indian household had a U.S. return. And here's the twist. Most of them never really returned. The H-1B visa was meant to be temporary, just 3 years, extendable to 6. But Indian engineers found a legal loophole that made it last forever: the green card pipeline. Employers could sponsor them for U.S. residency, and endless backlogs meant they could keep renewing their H-1Bs year after year. By 2024, nearly 1 million Indians were stuck in this queue. Many from the 1990s now naturalized Americans who arrived with 2 suitcases and ended up building homes, families, and companies in the valley.
Cultural and social ripple.
With that permanence came a deeper transformation. Young Indians, raised in semi-socialist conservative India, now had a front-row seat to American consumerism and individualism. They lived in gated suburbs, learned credit scores, mortgages, and Super Bowl Sundays, and celebrated Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Black Friday sales with the same enthusiasm they once reserved for Diwali. And when they visited home, they brought all of that back in stories, accents, and lifestyle. Around the same time, the internet arrived, and suddenly, the cultural traffic began to flow both ways. Emails, webcams, Orkut, and later Facebook made the Atlantic feel like a pond. A child in Mumbai could see her uncle's California backyard in real time. For India's middle class, the American dream had ceased to be foreign. It had become a family tradition.
The social upheaval.
But with opportunity came rupture. Traditionally, Indian children never left home. Parents and children lived together until death, because India had no social security, no old-age pension, no safety net. Family was the safety net. But post-1990, lakhs of parents suddenly found themselves alone. Their children in San Jose or Seattle, sending back dollars but absent in person. Dollar remittances became both a lifeline and a badge of prestige. Evening walks in Indian neighborhoods turned into story sessions about my son in Boston or my daughter in New Jersey. Grandparents narrated trips to the U.S., where their grandkids spoke with an American accent and no longer understood Hindi. Luxury old-age homes mushroomed in Indian cities, not for the destitute, but for the elite parents of NRIs, or non-resident Indians, those who had migrated abroad for work and success, leaving their aging parents behind to be cared for while they thrived overseas. A silent cultural revolution had begun. The joint family structure of India was cracking.
The NRI groom obsession.
If the H-1B visa created the middle-class dream, it also created India's most coveted commodity of the 1990s and 2000s, the US-based software engineer groom. Suddenly, arranged marriages went global. Forget caste, horoscope, or family status. The three magic words that could make any prospective groom irresistible were settled in America. Open any matrimonial ad from the 90s, and you'd find gems like
Fair convent-educated homely girl seeks US-based boy with H-1B status. Wanted. Software engineer groom from Silicon Valley. Green card in process. Caste no bar.
Software engineer in California looking for a bride. US visa will be provided post-marriage.
It wasn't just about love or compatibility, it was about immigration strategy disguised as matchmaking.
Education as gateway.
By the late 1990s and early 2000s, engineering colleges sprang up across India at an unprecedented pace. Not because India needed that many engineers, but because America did. Every B.Tech degree became a potential ticket to an H-1B visa, and a U.S. job became the new measure of success. A generation of private colleges sprouted across the country, promising global careers and campus placements in multinational firms.
The coaching industry.
To feed this engineering factory, a massive parallel economy of coaching institutes emerged. Parents poured their savings into training their children to crack elite entrance exams like the IIT-JEE, India's toughest engineering test. In the early 1990s, barely 150,000 students appeared for the IIT-JEE, the Indian Institutes of Technology Joint Entrance Examination, an ultra-competitive national test that decides entry into India's most prestigious engineering schools, the IITs, often called the MITs of India. Cracking this exam was, and still is, a national obsession, seen as a passport to both social mobility and global opportunity. By the late 2000s, that number had surged to over 1.3 million aspirants competing for around 10,000 to 12,000 seats. A staggering 1-to-100 ratio that showed how education had transformed from a pursuit into an industry. Cities like Kota, once unremarkable towns in Rajasthan, became industrial zones of aspiration, their streets lined with coaching institutes, hostels, and messes churning out IIT and engineering hopefuls. Every year, hundreds of thousands of teenagers left their homes to live alone in tiny rooms, eating out of tiffin boxes, attending 14-hour classes, and surviving on instant noodles and mock tests. For 2 or 3 relentless years, they carried not just their textbooks, but the weight of their parents' Silicon Valley dreams, to one day cross oceans, crack code, and cash in dollars. And for those aiming even higher, toward graduate schools in the United States, another branch of this ecosystem thrived: GRE, GMAT, and TOEFL coaching centers. These prep institutes promised a direct route to U.S. universities, which, in turn, became feeder pipelines for H-1B jobs. Cities like Hyderabad, Chennai, and Delhi were dotted with classrooms where students memorized word lists, practiced essay prompts, and dreamt of Stanford, or SUNY, as their gateway to the American tech dream. For decades, the highest ambition for an Indian middle-class family was to see their child become an IAS officer, a member of the Indian Administrative Service, the elite civil bureaucracy that runs the country. It was the ultimate symbol of prestige, power, and security, the Indian equivalent of joining the upper echelons of Washington's federal government. But after the 1990s, that dream began to diversify. The IAS remained a symbol of prestige and power, but it was no longer the only dream. A new badge of success had emerged: technology. For millions of middle-class families, the desire to serve the nation was often overshadowed by the dream of becoming a software engineer in the United States.
Real estate segment, the boom of the IT hubs.
If there was one industry that rode shotgun with the H-1B and IT revolution, it was real estate. Cities like Bangalore, Pune, Hyderabad, and Gurugram became magnets for investment. Land, once a sleepy family asset, suddenly turned into liquid gold. In the 1990s, Bangalore was still called the Garden City. By the 2000s, it had become India's Silicon Valley. Global IT parks like Electronic City and Whitefield drew tens of thousands of young engineers. And with them came a housing explosion. Modest neighborhoods turned into high-rise clusters. Rental rates near IT corridors skyrocketed. What was once a middle-class home with a garden became a multi-story paying guest or a serviced apartment. By the mid-2000s, Bangalore's real estate was among the fastest appreciating in Asia. In some pockets, rents jumped 3 to 4 times within a decade. Landlords who once collected a few hundred rupees in rent were suddenly earning tens of thousands. Farmers who sold land for IT parks on the city's outskirts became a new class of rural millionaires. Meanwhile, locals were often priced out of their own neighborhoods as rents doubled or tripled. Pune, Hyderabad, and several other Tier 2 cities followed a similar arc. Their landscapes transformed by the IT economy and the promise of the global paycheck. The new middle class wanted gated complexes, malls, and air-conditioned lifestyles, a world away from the socialist austerity their parents had grown up with.
Politics and culture back home.
NRIs didn't just influence India's culture. They began shaping its politics too. From campaign funding to social media mobilization, their reach extended far beyond borders. During the 2014 general elections, the rise of the BJP and Narendra Modi was powered in part by this overseas network. Thousands of Indians abroad, especially in the US, UK, and Gulf countries, organized fundraising drives, volunteered in digital campaigns, and even flew back home to campaign on the ground. Groups like the Overseas Friends of BJP, OFBPJ, became a powerful transnational force, channeling money, media, and messaging to project Modi's image as a global, tech-savvy reformer. And that political energy soon found a spiritual expression. When the construction of the Ram Temple in the North Indian city of Ayodhya was approved, Indians living abroad once again opened their wallets. By 2024, Indians living abroad had contributed a significant share of the about $425 million raised for the Ram Temple's construction, even though the temple itself cost only about $217 million to build. And if religion built one bridge, cinema built another. India's film industry, known as Bollywood, based in Mumbai, is one of the largest in the world, producing hundreds of movies each year that mix drama, music, and social commentary. Films like the 1997 classic Pardes captured the fairy tale of marrying an NRI, only to reveal the culture shock behind the dollar dream. Another film, Swades, from 2004, flipped that narrative, telling the story of an NRI who returns to India for a short visit and ends up staying to help rebuild his country, something that, in real life, rarely happens. Outside the movies, though, reality had fewer violins and more visa forms. Many brides, in real life, discovered that their U.S.-based prince often came with 5 roommates and a green card hustle. So, what began as a small American visa policy in 1990 ended up transforming India's middle class, socially, culturally, economically, even politically. It created a new Indian dream, not of walking with your son on evening walks, but of bragging about his LinkedIn profile to your neighbors. One visa, one policy, one moment in history changed an entire civilization's trajectory. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to subscribe to Whispering Peephole, where we peel back the layers of history, politics, and society to show you how small decisions echo through generations.